Hello, hello, little ducklings. It is Bronte-Marie here, and I am here with my friend Jayden. Say hello.
Hello, hello. I'm Jayden.
And we're here with Prime Video to talk about the female-led genre romance, which is a love of both of ours, I would say. Um, so I think to get into it, just to start off as an introduction to the genre, um, let's talk about how we define romance, because I think to discuss the titles we're going to get into, we have some really good ones that I handpicked out, stuff that I've been watching for years. We have to know what the romance genre is, and I actually don't think there's anyone better to introduce this than Jayden. He's much more well-read in the genre than I am, though I am a bookseller. I'm a sci-fi fantasy girly. So I love fantasy with a dose of romance. But Jayden, I feel like Jayden could talk romance back to the 1980s, honestly.
I feel like I'm just a romance girly through and through.
Yeah.
I kind of found my love of it probably when I first started reading. I think it was like the easiest thing for me to actually go into.
Mm,
But then as soon as I found the fantasy world and there was a mix of romance, I literally think I fell in love with every single series I ever read.
yeah. Um, and it's one of those ones which I've come to and from, but I did grow up watching, my mother was always into your very classic 90s rom-coms.
Absolutely.
Um, so for Valentine's Day, because as a sapphic, it is my personal Valentine's Day, we've picked out some titles that I thought would be fun to go through. The first title that I want to talk about is my personal favorite. So I watched this with my mother, and we watched this since release. And we watched a season every year as it released, and it is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Okay, so I wasn't onto this before you told me about it. And can I just say it has fast become one of my favorite series. I literally binged season 1 in one day.
Oh my god.
And then now my mum and I are gonna watch it together.
Oh,
Which I Yes, I'm really excited for that.
it's such a good it's so there are some moments which are a little bit more provocative than others. But it's such a good parent watch. Um, but I love Midge. Um, the story of a woman who needs to fall in love with herself.
Literally.
Yeah.
I think that is the kind of romance though that I am so drawn to as well. Like I love when there are two people coming together and finding love. But I think as just a human who's I guess has worked on this throughout their life as well, like self-love is so important and to watch it on screen be so real and authentic and her self-discovery of that
Mm.
is just so beautiful and funny.
Mm. So, for context, for those who do not know, the first episode of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel revolves around Midge Maisel, a profoundly funny,
Mm.
whip smart woman who is married to a man who wants to be a stand-up comedian, um, who is not the funny person in the relationship.
Like at all.
But poor thing.
And he did steal jokes. So like I mean, he really was not funny.
To be fair, but what creative hasn't maybe just snuck here or there?
Okay.
I
No, no, I get that. Truly, truly, truly.
it's still like an artist. I have my sympathies for Joel on one end, on the creative end, as because who of us haven't been like, I want to do this thing, and then realize that they're abysmal at it. Um,
That's okay.
because it's always that thing that people go where they get into a field and they're like, oh, we want it. We you have so much talent in this. We really want to get. It's always a thing where someone wants to get into a creative field and they see someone else in the field and they're like, "You have so much talent. You're so naturally good at this." And really, what they're not realizing is years and years of hard work.
Mm,
On the flip side, though, when it comes to stand-up comedy, Midge is the funny one.
absolutely.
She's hilarious. So throughout the course of the first episode, in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, um, Joel's stand-up comedy budding career, I guess, kind of falls to pieces. And then in the aftermath of that, Midge realizes he confesses to Midge that he's been cheating on her with his secretary, a woman who can't sharpen a pencil.
Can I just say that broke my heart?
It was.
It was like heartbreaking first episode, Midge giving her everything. Okay, mind you, everyone, like throughout his life of trying to be a stand-up comedian, Midge goes to every single show. She writes notes. She tries to help him with his jokes, even though they're not his. And still after all that,
mean, she's invested. Like, even when he starts talking about, like, I can't live this life, she's immediately ready to, like, dive in and change it because she thought it was just an expectation thing. In reality, he's just into a really quite dull woman, because it's not the life that he has. And for Midge to get anywhere where she needs to be throughout the course of the series, she kind of has to start to like herself because she's constantly, like, dimmed her shine in the favor of Joel, of making his life better.
How often though do you see, even amongst, I've felt it myself,
Mm.
but even as amongst friends, do people dim their light?
Yes. Like, especially when I was younger,
Yeah.
and you'd watch these people in these relationships, or you'd be friends with people where you were like, it just feels like you're a bit much.
People used to say that to me.
Oh, I hate
I
that.
remember being younger and people would literally be like, "You're actually just too much. You have too much energy." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I
And then I would slowly become a smaller version of myself. And then one day, like Mitch, I decided enough's enough.
I despise that. I stood up, like, at my wedding day. Mind you, I was about 11 drinks in at this point, which was
Iconic.
inadvisable. Um, and I was like, "Cool, I am now emceeing my own wedding." And that is what I proceeded to do.
That is so
Um,
fun.
4 mimosas and 3 of those, like, coconut liqueurs. I said, "I want something sweet, keep me topped up," and the wedding staff took it very seriously. So Midge is a character I'm, like, phenomenally attached to.
Do you feel like you channeled Midge in that moment?
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, I was drunk, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this." Um, and I it's so interesting seeing her journey because she starts off at a point where she's literally measuring her body,
Yes.
and it has to be the same, and if it changes even slightly, it's like, "Oh my god." And then you see where it comes from because you meet her mother, and her mother's going on about how her forehead is, and I'm like, so the whole family structure was set up for Midge to be less big and less, funny and full of personality.
Well, it was also said in a time when women weren't, like, they were basically put into a pigeonhole to do that.
Yeah, I would say so, but also I'd say Rose is a very
Rose,
particular mother.
very much so.
Um, God bless her, didn't grow up with one of those. I wasn't built for that. I don't think me and Rose would have survived one another. Um, and, so one of my long-running loves when it comes to The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is the importance it places on platonic relationships. I'm of the opinion that you need to be a little bit in love with your friends. Um, like, all of my best friendships were all a little bit in love with one another.
Well, I also think the reason why you're best friends with them is because of the qualities that they have and the life that they bring to your life. So why would you not be in love with that? It's like a reflection of you as a person.
Absolutely. And in the long run, and I'm not going to spoil it for you because I know you're getting there,
I have 4 more seasons
but
left.
the core relationship of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is the contrast between Susie and Midge.
Honestly, my favorite, by the way.
So Susie is Midge's, like, brusque, headstrong, incredibly stubborn, blunt manager. And throughout everything in the series, um, this relationship prevails. Like, no matter what happens, the core of it is still going to be that dynamic. And we love female friendships at the core of things.
Absolutely, and also they're the driving factor of most stories. And actually things I'm not gonna lie, most of my life has been through my female friendships.
Mm.
Like, all the things that I've learnt and also the hard truths that I've had to, like, really, like, believe have come from friends being like, "Yo,
Mhm. Which I feel like is a good segue to, we have to talk about Fleabag at some point.
Fleabag."
Fleabag.
When I tell you, I had not seen this show before, and okay,
How have you not
okay,
seen
no,
this show
okay, okay.
before?
Everyone told me about it, which is so amazing. But I was like, "Oh, I just can't give it a go. I don't really understand it." Like, when I tell you I binged watched this show, it's messy and chaotic
Mm.
and self-inflicting and just so rough, but so joyous. And it is the easiest watch I think you'll find.
Yeah, so Fleabag's a really interesting one for me because it started off as a single woman, show, which Phoebe Waller-Bridge did on her own, and it's all been
Oh
adapted
my goodness.
into a 2-season long series, which is potentially one of my favorite series of all time next to, like, I've genuinely, look me in the eye when I say this. I picked these out. I had full say over what I'm talking about. Um, I love anything that feels like it could be a stage play.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're also going to talk about one. Very soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Love that. Yeah.
Anything that feels like it could be on theater in a stage
Mm.
play, often it's like the nuances of character dialogue, I think. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is so brilliant in it as Fleabag. And to talk about Fleabag and romance, we have to talk about the priest.
Okay. So I didn't know when he was coming into the story.
Yeah, everyone expects him to
I
be really
literally
early.
thought it was going to be like season 1, and he doesn't come in until like the latter half of season 2, but he's one of, do you know what I loved about them? I think it was like the contrast between them. They were like on the opposite spectrum of kind of like life and the way they saw it, but they also related in so many ways as well, like from a character perspective, that it was like he was like light and airy, or trying to be, and she was also light and airy and trying to be at that time in the season. Where like them coming together, comedically brilliant, but also just like their chemistry.
So my take on, there's been so many diatribes written about the Fleabag and priest relationship. The priest, he found his calling, right? Like
did.
he's a priest. He was very unhappy outside the Catholic Church. He became a priest, and he's now spending a lot of time being happy and safe and making other people feel happy and safe.
Yeah.
And then he meets Fleabag, who is unhappy, as a rule of thumb. And he's like they're like magnetically drawn to each other. That dinner scene in season 2 is amazing. And the whole time you're sitting there, and it takes maybe 5 minutes of these two characters being on screen for one another for you to go, yeah, they're perfect for each other. But they can't work out because he's a priest.
And that is a really, really tough pill to swallow at the
It
end
really
of
is.
I literally was like, surely there's a season 3 coming. Like, surely there is something that is going to, because in my like little romance world, and I love like reading my little contemporary romance books, or even like the fantasy romance books that I read, for the most part, couples end up together.
That's because it's a trapping, like the classic trapping of the romance genre, right?
Yes.
Is a happily ever after.
But can I tell you, the relationships that have endured in my mind are the ones that haven't ended up together.
That's so fair. My thing is I think the classic happily ever after, I think it needs to be like a much more complex thing.
I agree.
Because two characters, not to spoil it for everyone, but Fleabag and the priest do not end up getting together in the way that you expect, because he's a Catholic priest. God forbid he be an Irish one. Those will do. I think they're allowed to have. I think they're allowed to have sex. Which, shocking as someone who grew up an Irish Catholic, those are the priests who are allowed to have children. Oh my God, what was my point? The happily ever after trope, I feel like it needs to be more complex, because two characters sometimes not getting together is a version of what is best for both of these people. And I love that. So season 2 of Fleabag, the priest is being chased around by foxes.
Yes, that was a really, really cute scene.
Which is, in my head, the way I always read it, is it's representative of his relationship with God. Whenever he gets too far from what he's believed his calling is, the fox shows up.
Oh, wow. That's a really, really great way of thinking about it.
And so when, in the final scene, when they're sitting at the bus stop together, I love you, it'll pass.
You cannot. That is not. That's like literally. I actually almost cried. I had to stop.
I love you, it'll pass.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's so rough. And then he walks away.
Doesn't even sit with her on the bus.
And the fox follows him.
Yep.
And it's because sitting with her would have made it worse. But in the end, the fact that the camera no longer follows her is a sign that she's going in a better direction.
Yes, which I loved.
Yeah.
She needed a break.
It's also this interesting thing where you have this dynamic between two characters who he sees her in a way that no other character in the series sees her. He's the only one who notices her breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. Oh my God. When they broke the fourth wall together at the cafe, I literally like laughed. I was like, that's incredible.
Because he's like, what are you doing?
And he's like, wait, oh, more goes. and then comes back, and I was like, oh my god.
Because the whole fourth wall break, consistently throughout Fleabag, the main character breaks the fourth wall by talking to the camera and making comments. Usually sly, usually funny. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is a phenomenally comedic human being.
Yeah.
And that's like my understanding of it was always that it like represented the facade which she put out to the world, and he sees straight through it. And I'm like, it'll pass?
Yeah. I think as well, like with that show, it's the complexities not only in the romantic relationships that she seeks out, but also like the familial. Like it is so complex, very similar to the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, like very complex, very like it's just ingrained in so much that the reprieve that they get when they start to find themselves outside of like everything else that exists is so beautiful. And like we were saying, like falling in love with yourself is probably the most important thing across all these two that we've spoken about.
Yeah, I had someone say it to me once when we were discussing Fleabag, that the core relationship of Fleabag is her relationship with her sister.
100% agree with you.
Her relationship with
Yeah.
Claire. And like they have men who come in and out of their lives. Like I have no appropriate names for Claire's ex-husband.
I really dislike him.
And his name's completely left my head.
I don't think it's even worth mentioning, to be
I
honest.
don't think I'm allowed to call him the things I would call him.
Well, no. We are on set. However, I would say
But they're
like,
fleeting. Like these men come
yes.
and go. And they like leave these big, beautiful impacts. Well, the priest leaves a big, beautiful impact. The
Yeah.
ex-husband.
Yeah.
And they still have each other.
But I think that's where we talk about like female friendships as well. Because like men do come and go, or women do come and go. But like the people that you're really, really close with, like they're the ones that are sticking by you through all that.
And sometimes you have close female friendships and you kiss each other on the mouth, like in Wicked.
Oh my goodness, yes, Wicked.
So this is like a whole thing, right? So in the books, mild spoilers, but Glinda and Elphaba kiss each other on the
They
mouth.
are.
Like he's been very explicit.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
He was also a gay author.
No, he's like an openly gay
Yes.
man who wrote Wicked the book.
Yes.
That then went on to be the musical, and then went on to be a movie with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, two phenomenally talented human beings.
Can we just talk about them for 1 second?
Oh, of course.
Incredible. Like I went to the movies to watch it, and then I watched it again on Prime, and it genuinely was incredible.
Yeah, I watched it on Prime Video at home after seeing it in the cinemas, and I just absolutely ate it up. I was obsessed. It's so interesting that when you watch something and you're like, I feel like the actors made a decision here.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
feel like
it's
the decision
intentional.
was made that these two are lesbians.
Well, the second I realized that was when they danced.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was no other point in which they weren't, because I felt like after that moment, it wasn't performative when they were together, but it's performative when everyone else was around.
Yes. And for some of the deleted scenes, there's like discussions of Glinda trying to be like, you could have come to me and asked for help. Their whole relationship is the core of Wicked. And you can see it however you want to see it. I know there's plenty of people out there who are platonic Glinda and Elphaba truthers. That's so fine. However, the author being a gay man who's openly spoken about the subtext. And also in the books, they kiss each other on the mouth.
Also, did you know that he actually signed a book once and said, "Girlfie forever"?
Love it.
Like,
Well,
if he's standing.
So I spent a little bit of time before it came out just reading all the books.
Yeah.
And it's pretty straightforward about what it is. But the one time that really I had a laugh was they rock up at Glinda's palace at one point, and it's a pink palace just full of beautiful women. And I went,
I love that.
That's the gayest thing I've ever heard. So when you see how they've played each other, and even in the way that they're so intimate in like little ways throughout the course of the event, the course of the events of Wicked, sorry. The way that they are so intimate with each other throughout the course of the events of Wicked, and they're so in tune to one another. And I feel like that scene where after Popular, where Elpha's been all done up and
Yeah.
galindified,
Yeah.
and she's doing the little toss. That is the gayest thing I've ever seen, I'm afraid. I mean, what lesbian hasn't gotten a new girlfriend and gone, I now need to dress exactly like him?
Actually, you know what? My sister's lesbian, and I have to agree with you.
I fear I am also built that way. Unfortunately, my wife mostly runs around in, I wish I were exaggerating, Pokemon leggings.
Love that.
Not my style though.
But absolutely rock it.
Rocket for her. She's so good. She's a classic 90s nerd. It's not built that way.
No.
I can't emulate.
But look at you. You're in your beautiful dress.
I try. I try. An attempt was made.
Do you have a favorite song?
So I saw the stage musical back in the day, and I think when I saw the stage musical, my favorite song was probably Popular.
Okay.
But over time, it's become No One Mourns the Wicked,
Okay.
which I largely attribute to the sheer amount of TikTok edits I've seen.
Yeah, fair.
There's so many. There's a bunch of Arcane edits. Like there's so many TikTok edits.
Okay, I've not seen Arcane yet, but I'm sure it's good.
There's so many TikTok edits to No One Mourns the Wicked.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go home again and watch Wicked again. I mean, I bought it. I did that silly thing where I bought it even.
You know what a really queer scene was as well? Is when they're going to Emerald City.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything about that.
Absolutely.
Iconic.
And I think it's so interesting. So in the musical Wicked, for those who have not seen it, there is a song that's phenomenally popular, which is What Is This Feeling? And it's like, what is this feeling so sudden and new?
Dun, 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 dun.
I'm saying no more than that. But that's very classically coded as a love song. I actually think it directly references, and I'm pulling this out of my head, so the reference might not be completely accurate. I think it's a Roger and Hammerstein, where it actually is like a straight up love song.
Okay.
And so it's referenced pretty that way, because it goes, what is this feeling so sudden and new? I felt the moment I laid eyes on you. And the whole time you're expecting it to build up to a love song. And the punchline is that they swap out like the obvious love for loathing.
Which, with a lot of these things, the line is quite...
The lines are very fine.
Yes, very fine.
It's very fine. Especially when you're roommates. I feel like I get on my wife's nerves all the time anyway.
There you go. The line is very fun.
Exactly. And it's fine in most of these. Like, I feel like the best dynamics in romance in general is where you have that balance of like loathing and love.
Well, that's why Enemies to Lovers is so popular. It's because people want to see it. People want to see someone that is just like hard and doesn't actually like me. And, oh, wait, do they like me? But then there are some really hilarious moments where like, is it enemies to lovers or is it just a bit?
Is it enemies to lovers or is it inconveniences to lovers?
True. Oh my goodness, I never thought about it like that.
Is it we had one rude encounter at a party 3 months ago to lovers?
And then they find one bed and all of a sudden.
I think Susie and Midge go back and forth.
Okay. I really am excited to finish that.
It's so fun. And it's also one of the only shows that my wife has found genuinely funny. My wife is notoriously incredibly critical of oh my God. My wife is notoriously incredibly critical of TV in general. It's very hard to get her to sit down to watch anything. So we watch on Prime Video. So on Prime Video, we watch like Yellow Jackets. Which have you seen?
No, I've not seen that. Incredible.
I actually, what's the Emma quote? If I loved it less, I'd be able to talk about it more.
Okay, that's beautiful then.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
And we watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And those are some of the only series she's watched from start to end.
Well, that's awesome.
And she genuinely, there's a scene with Susie and Midge in, I think it might be season 2 or season 3, where my wife burst out laughing.
Oh my God. And
it's the only time I've really seen it in television, which is very impressive.
I'm so incredibly excited to see where that story's going as well.
Also, because this is dropping, this podcast will be dropping around Valentine's Day. I fear we might take a slight branch. Because this podcast is dropping on Valentine's Day, I think we're going to take a slight branch off to discuss. I'm going to introduce you to Yellow Jackets
Okay.
today
Let's do it.
because Yellow Jackets season 3 drops on Valentine's Day on
Beautiful.
Prime Video, and the way I have time set aside to binge watch it.
Okay. Oh, that is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's self-love in itself.
Oh my god. So, firstly, Yellow Jackets has representation across the board,
Beautiful.
which we love to see. We've got codependent female friendships that feel kind of vaguely toxically queer.
Okay.
We have straight people, bless their hearts. We got to have a few of those. And then we have like your lesbians living out in the woods, one of which who had their face mauled off by a wolf.
Wait, what is this about? I'm really confused now.
So, Yellow Jackets, have you know the concept of Lord of the Flies?
Yes.
So think of Lord of the Flies,
Okay.
where you have a team of teenagers who end up stranded in the wilderness,
Okay.
except it's the 1990s. The team is a crew of teenage soccer players, all female soccer team,
Okay.
and they crash in the Canadian Rockies.
My sister would love this show.
And it all goes to hell.
Okay.
So they're in the Canadian Rockies, out in the middle of nowhere, and they've crashed, and it's their survival story, but you're also jumping forward the timeline like 20 years to them as middle-aged people. So as a story is unwinding.
I love that.
I'm going to get you to watch it.
Yeah, I think I will watch it.
It's fantastic. It's some of the best character writing you'll see, and probably the central character that you're introduced to is Shauna. The Yellow Jackets fans know Shauna so well. She's so incredibly funny and maybe the worst person ever. Like, she's just objectively, me and my wife sit there and I'm like, is she like a sociopath? Something's gone wrong here.
Okay.
But the actress is so funny. And the funniest character flaw they have is that she's a horrible liar. Like, and I'm talking abysmal.
Like, can't tell a lie.
And cannot tell a
life of
lie
her.
for the life of her. So you have a character who's canonically like skinned rabbits and stuff and ate them.
Okay.
Like wilderness
Yeah,
hunting,
like,
right?
they
Like
have to.
full blown like
Yeah.
bleeding out elk and the
Yeah.
whole shebang. And she can't tell a lie for anything.
Okay.
Gosh.
That's great. But are they good lies at least? Is she trying to tell? Like, is it the kind of lie that you're telling when you're out with friends and someone comes up to you and you literally just make everything up? Okay, because I do love
No.
those lies.
We love a little white lie.
Love
We
a little.
love
bit.
just a little bit of a white lie. But that one is
She's not it.
she's not it. And the romance I fear you'd adore is there are a pair of lesbians,
Yeah.
Van and Thaisa, who fall in love out in the wilderness. And I'm like, man, love at all costs.
It kind of sounds beautiful.
It is.
Like,
It
I really want to go
is.
camping now. I've been trying to go camping with my boyfriend for so long.
I'm not a camping
No,
girl. I
you're
mean,
camping
look at
girl.
me. I'm not built for camping.
Good for you.
I'm made from powdered sugar and cake dough.
I would love that.
And now we get to finally talk about the last title on my list, which is Daisy Jones and the Six.
Which is very similar to the flashback kind of vibe that you're talking about.
Yes. So Daisy Jones and the Six is set around the 1970s.
Brilliant.
Think Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
And it's about, the book itself is formatted as a selection of interviews talking to different members of a band and why they fell apart after a singular tour. And it has like this all-encompassing dynamic between Daisy and Mr. Guitar.
It is, honestly. So I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And as soon as I started reading the book, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm hooked. I just really enjoyed how catastrophic the dynamic was. It was intense. It's essentially like leading up to the moment where their band disbands and how they get to that point. And it kind of follows the interpersonal relationships of all the band members and essentially what leads them to their inevitable demise as a band.
And I recently went back to rewatch it on Prime Video because I wanted a refresher before we talked about it. So you haven't gotten right up to the ending of the series, have you?
No, I have.
You have?
I finished it. It is incredible. Also, the fact that it is original music is just nuts to me.
Absolutely. So here's the complex question I have.
Okay, go for it.
Does Daisy Jones and the Six qualify as a romance?
Can something be romantic and not a romance?
Absolutely.
Because I think
But
at its core,
mm,
it is a romance and inevitably
and
is chaotic.
and I actually think so my argument here is that Daisy Jones follows a bunch of the, like, genre trappings.
Yes.
Third acts, miscommunication, breakup,
Least favorite.
and then at the very tail end of it, she shows up at his place.
I know. Yes. You honestly, if you've not watched it, you need to watch it.
It's
The ending is marvelous when we find out who is behind the camera the whole time.
yes, which
I
I'm not going to spoil for you
No,
all
I
because
literally, like, gasped
absolutely.
audibly.
I also think if you've ever been invested in, like, band drama. So I grew up listening to Fleetwood Mac, which is, like, this big, boisterous, like, musical drama where you're watching effectively a soap opera from a distance.
Literally.
They're breaking up and someone's sleeping together here, and this is drama's happening over here, and someone's on drugs. You would eat up Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh, absolutely.
It's phenomenal. I also just love Daisy.
She is such a great character. I think, like, across all the things that we've spoken about today, the female characters have been so masterfully created.
Mm,
Complexities, not only because I think, like, a lot of the time when I read books, the female protagonist is kind of perfect and then the boyfriend does something wrong.
mm,
Whereas, like, in these stories, they're so beautiful because it's, like, human. Like, you actually feel like you're watching kind of yourself
mm.
in a character. Albeit I'm not going to the as far as they are.
Just a tad.
But still, like, you can see yourself in the characters and you go, "Oh my goodness, wow."
I think when you allow women to have their space within the narrative and you put these really phenomenally strong actresses at the front, like, I don't think there's a weak actress between the lot of them,
Mm.
and you give them stuff like a little bit of breadth and comedic timing and a little bit of say here and there, and you let these female characters be complex and nuanced and well-written, you get brilliant female characters.
Mm.
As far as I'm concerned, if I turn on something and realize that there's a poorly written female character, I turn it off.
Absolutely.
As you should. As you should.
Well, that's what I always find as well when I'm reading.
Mm,
If someone's, like, an unreliable narrator or if there's someone that I don't wanna hear the story from,
mm.
why would I waste my time?
If I cross even one instance of, she breasted boobily down the stairs,
That
I'm gone.
That's okay. Don't need that.
I'm gone. I have respect to it. There's a place for it, but it's not something I choose to consume. And so more and more I'm reaching for, like, these female-led pieces of fiction,
Yeah.
be they movies or TV shows or books, where you can see that it's funneled through the female
Yeah,
gaze.
beautiful.
Like, nothing here I think really classifies into the male gaze, which is just so important to me because I actually don't think I could get my wife to sit down to watch one with me if we looked at it and there was a single, like, out-of-pocket outfit choice.
Love
Someone wore her hair down, like a character wore her hair down once in a fight scene, and my wife was like, "I can't do it.
That's not
She
real.
needs a hair tie."
Yeah. That's not happening.
And I'm like, "Oh,
I love
okay.
that.
Okay." Oh, it's been so interesting because none of my choices for this have been classic
Mm.
romances. Though I do adore Emma, which is classically, I've referenced it earlier. That one is a very classic romance. Which is the notorious if I loved you more, if I loved you less, I'd be able to talk about it more.
Yeah.
I mean, we love a bit of yearning.
I adore yearning. I want to see someone groveling.
Have you watched Emma?
I have not. I have a few things that I need to watch on Prime Video, like, after
This
this.
half of this has been a recommendation from me to you.
Honestly, it's been great.
So Emma is your classic period drama, and it's absolutely stunning. It's costumed to the nines, and as someone who was in film, I am so notoriously picky about hair, makeup, costuming. At one point, Anya Taylor-Joy gets a nosebleed on cue in the middle of, like, a confession scene where they're talking about love. She yearned so hard she got a
Oh
nosebleed.
my goodness. That's not what you want. Don't give it to me.
We love it. We love it. And at one point, her gentleman spends the whole time lying on the ground, just contemplating how much he's just yearning after this.
As he should.
I think that, it's Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yes.
Well, I think that's it for us for now. We've had a little bit of a girls' night, a little bit of a session, and we have gone through our Valentine's picks.
I have things to watch.
Yes.
I'm
I'm
actually really excited.
I'm unfortunately on Prime Video all the time, so I have nothing, no new recommendations here. I put it on in the back while I watch.
I really did enjoy your Cordially Invited. New
Okay.
Will Ferrell, new Reese with the Spin. Check it out. Easy watch.
Duly noted. I'll put it in.
Super easy watch.
I'll put it on tonight while I write. It was so lovely talking to you all. It was so lovely having you, Jayden.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Truly, it's been the loveliest. And hopefully you find something lovely to watch with your girls on Valentine's Day. I love you all so much, and I will see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.